Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where we're tackling a crucial task, securely accessing an AWS RDS database directly from your GitHub Actions workflows. It's a common need for things like running database migrations, executing schema updates, or even fetching configuration data during your CI/CD pipeline, but it comes with unique security and networking challenges, which we will demystify today, showing you a robust and secure approach. Understanding the challenge. Connecting GitHub Actions to a private AWS RDS instance isn't straightforward because GitHub's runners are not within your AWS Virtual Private Cloud, or VPC, where your database likely resides for security reasons. Direct inbound connections from arbitrary internet IPs are usually blocked by default, and rightly so. We need a secure bridge, and the AWS RDS Data API, especially with Aurora Serverless, offers an excellent solution for executing SQL commands without direct network access, or we can use AWS CLI commands to orchestrate access through other AWS services. AWS Setup, the foundation. First, let's set up the AWS side. You'll need an RDS database. Aurora Serverless is highly recommended if you plan to use the Data API, as it simplifies connectivity and scaling. Next, create an IAM role in AWS that your GitHub Actions workflow will assume. This role needs specific permissions, for instance, RDS data if you're using the Data API, or permissions to interact with other AWS services that can then connect to your RDS. Remember the principle of least privilege. Only grant the necessary permissions. After that, store your RDS database credentials, like the username and password, securely in AWS Secrets Manager. This is paramount for security and prevents hardcoding sensitive information in your GitHub Actions workflow files. Finally, ensure your RDS Security Group allows inbound traffic from the appropriate source. For the Data API, this is often handled internally via VPC endpoints, but for other methods, you might need to allow traffic from a specific EC2 instance's security group if you're using a bastion host or similar intermediary. GitHub Actions workflow, connecting securely. Now, let's configure your GitHub Actions workflow file. Begin by using the AWS Actions/configure AWS credentials at v1 action. This action allows your workflow to assume the IAM role you created, providing temporary AWS credentials for subsequent steps. You'll need to specify your AWS region and the ARN of the IAM role. Once authenticated, your workflow can then retrieve the database credentials from AWS Secrets Manager using the AWS CLI, like AWS Secrets Manager get secret value secret ID your_secret_ID query secret string output text. Store these values in environment variables for use in later steps. With credentials in hand, you can now interact with your RDS database. If you're using Aurora Serverless and the Data API, you can execute SQL commands directly using the AWS CLI. For example, AWS RDS Data execute statement resource arn your_RDS_ARN secret arn your_secret_ARN database your_DB_name SQL select from users. This command sends SQL statements to your database without requiring an open network port from GitHub Actions, making it incredibly secure and efficient. For more complex operations or traditional RDS instances, you might deploy a script to an EC2 instance or trigger an AWS Lambda function from GitHub Actions, and that AWS resource, being within your VPC, would then connect to RDS. Putting it all together, an example. A simple workflow might look like this. First, check out your repository, then configure AWS credentials with your IAM role. Next, retrieve the database secret, and finally, run an AWS RDS Data execute statement command to perform a database migration script or a simple data check. This pattern ensures that all sensitive data and database access are handled through secure AWS services and temporary credentials, minimizing exposure. Important considerations. Always ensure your IAM role has the absolute minimum permissions required. Rotate your database credentials regularly using Secrets Manager's rotation features. For performance-critical or very large operations, consider whether GitHub Actions is the best place, or if offloading to a dedicated AWS service like CodeBuild or Lambda might be more appropriate, with GitHub Actions orchestrating the process. Thank you for watching this guide on securely accessing AWS RDS from GitHub Actions. We hope this helps you build more robust and secure CI/CD pipelines. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more content on cloud and DevOps best practices.